Imagine your child is standing outside the bathroom. They're crossing their legs, they're doing the little potty dance, and they're just clearly desperate to go. You know they need the toilet. They know they need the toilet, but they still can't verbally tell you. Now, imagine at this point, we're not talking about a 2-year-old potty training for the first time. We're talking about a child that you've spent years modeling this language to. You've repeated, I need the toilet. Let's go to the toilet. Do you need the toilet? You've worked with multiple speech therapists. You've followed the advice. You've repeated those words thousands and thousands of times, and yet your child still isn't consistently saying it. At some point, every parent starts to wonder, why isn't my child picking this up? A mum asked me exactly that question this week. She said, I understand the picturing exercises, I understand the imagery work and what you're kind of telling me, Eloise, but how is that going to help my daughter tell me that she needs a toilet? And honestly, it's one of the most important questions a parent can ask, because the answer completely changes how we even think about communication. So if you've found me on YouTube, the chances are that you've already spent years and years trying to help your child communicate, or you're more at the beginning of your journey, desperately searching for help, support, and answers. You've been modeling language, you've been repeating phrases, you've narrated your day to your child, you've labeled objects, you've followed the recommendations, and you're starting to sound a little bit like Miss Rachel. And if you're anything like the families that I work with, there may be a small voice in the back of your mind that's just asking, am I doing something wrong? Am I missing something that is important for my child? And that's because you've been told over and over and over again, model more, talk more, narrate more, repeat more. Do it with play, do it in the car, do it when you're eating. So when language doesn't emerge, parents often start to blame themselves. But what if the issue isn't that your child hasn't learned enough language? Because let's face it, they probably have heard enough language at this point. What if the issue is that nobody has helped build that bridge between what they can understand and what they can express? So let's go back to this little girl and the mum that I was talking with. If I asked her, show me the toilet, you bet she can do that. If I said, point to the toilet, she can do that too. If I said, take me to the toilet, she can absolutely do that. When she needs to go, she starts showing all of the signs. She crosses her legs, she rushes to the bathroom, she becomes uncomfortable. So let's think about this logically. Does she know what a toilet is? Yes. Does she understand what it's for? Yes, again. And does she recognize that feeling of needing to go? Absolutely, yes. So what that tells us is that the information is already existing in her brain. She's got that understanding. So the problem isn't knowledge. The difficulty she is having is with her communication. Right. Now, I want you to picture something. I want you to picture that I put you in a plane tomorrow and I drop you in rural Japan. You need the toilet. You know exactly what a toilet is. You know exactly how it feels when you need to go. And you know exactly what you want to communicate. But you don't have access to the language. You can't express it. That problem isn't in your understanding. The problem is in getting the information out. And that is where many autistic children live every single day. The thought exists. The words don't come easily. The understanding is there, but the expression isn't. For over 100 years, scientists have known about two very important language areas in the brain. One area, called the Wernicke's area, is heavily involved in understanding language and meaning. Another area, the Broca's area, is involved in producing speech and expressing language. But modern neuroscience has shown us something really, really important. Communication doesn't happen because these areas don't exist. They exist in all brains. Communication happens because these two areas are actually communicating with each other. Think of it like two cities connected with a highway. One city contains thoughts, memories, experiences, and meaning. The other contains words, sentences, language. If that highway between these two cities is weak, slow, or inefficient, communication is going to become difficult. That thought might be crystal clear, but the words simply don't arrive. A little bit like having that word on the tip of your tongue, that feeling, but obviously happening a lot more. This is exactly what researchers have found in many autistic individuals. There are differences in connectivity between language networks. Back in 2015, researchers at the University of Alabama conducted a fascinating study led by Dr. Rajesh Khanna. The researchers worked with autistic children who could read words accurately but struggled to understand what they were reading. The intervention they used wasn't focused on memorizing words, it wasn't focused on drilling vocabulary, it wasn't focused on repetition, it wasn't focused on developing scripts with a child. Instead, it focused on helping children create mental images for language, helping them to connect words to meaning, helping them visualize concepts as they read and listened. These children received intensive instruction, 4 hours a day, 5 days a week for 10 whole weeks, a total of 200 hours. Now, here is where it gets really, really interesting. The researchers didn't just measure their reading and comprehension scores at the end. They actually were using fMRI technology to scan the children's brains before and after this intensive intervention. And what they found was remarkable. Yes, the children improved their comprehension, which was amazing. But more importantly, their brain connectivity changed. The researchers found increased connectivity in language areas of the brain, such as the Wernicke's and the Broca's area. Even more fascinating, the children who showed the greatest improvements in connectivity were also the children who showed the greatest improvements in comprehension. I'm going to let that sink in with you for a moment. They didn't just simply see better test scores. They literally observed stronger communication between language regions of the brain. Dr. Khanna actually described the post-intervention brain activity as richer, with greater involvement of visual processing, language processing, meaning making, and motor systems. This research concluded that these findings demonstrated the plasticity of the autistic brain. This research concluded that the autistic brain is highly plastic, and the intervention can actually strengthen previously underconnected language networks. In other words, the brain changed in very important areas and with the connectivity of those areas, and communication improved alongside those changes. So people can sometimes misunderstand imagery. The goal isn't to teach a child to become an artist in their mind. The goal is communication. So imagine I say the dog ran across the beach. Some children hear the words. Other children create that picture. They see the dog, they see the sand, they see the movement. The words become connected to meaning. And meaning is what allows language to stick. Meaning is what allows that language to be retrieved. Meaning is what allows that language to be expressed. Communication is not simply remembering words. Communication is connecting words to experiences. So, after more than 15 years working with autistic children, I see the same pattern repeatedly. children who know the answer but can't say it, children who understand stories but can't tell them, children who can show you exactly what happened at school but can't tell you, children who point to what they want but can't verbally express it. The information exists for these children, but the bridge is weak. And when we strengthen that bridge, something fascinating often happens. Children start saying things that no one explicitly taught them. Not because they memorized a script, not because they drilled a phrase with a teacher or a therapist, but because their brain became much more efficient at turning thoughts into language. So let's go back to this little girl that I've been talking about the whole way through. Maybe, just maybe, she already knows everything she needs to know, but the people around her aren't seeing that. Her mum does. Parents often know that their child is understanding more than they can show you. However, they're typically battling against other professionals who just aren't seeing it. Maybe in a school setting, maybe in a therapy setting, maybe in an assessment at a doctor's office. So that missing piece probably isn't going to be learning the phrase, especially if she has heard this phrase so many times already. That missing piece is likely going to be strengthening the connection between understanding and expression. Because if I'm being brutally honest, for this little girl and for your child, if they're experiencing this as well, if communication was going to come from them hearing the word enough times, they would be communicating. It would have happened already. So if your child isn't communicating yet, it's obvious that you can't assume that they don't understand. So please keep advocating for them with other adults that they are with who might not see their potential as clearly as you do. Don't automatically assume they're not learning, right? And also, please don't assume that somehow you failed or not done enough because you've spent years modeling language without seeing that progress that you're hoping for. The most important question might not actually be, how many words does my child know? That little checklist you have to do when they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? How many words do they know? What is a much better question to ask is, how strong is that connection between what they understand and what they can express? Because communication doesn't begin with speech output. Communication actually begins with thoughts. And when we can strengthen that connection between thought and language, amazing changes can happen. If this way of thinking and communication resonates with you, if you were thinking about your child and how what I'm saying kind of makes sense for what you're experiencing with them, I've put together a free training where I walk through the key 3 areas that I focus on when helping autistic children develop stronger communication skills via strengthening their cognitive communication connection. Inside this training, you'll learn why some children understand far more than they can express, the connection between cognition and communication, why repetition alone isn't enough, and practical strategies you can start doing at home. The link is in the description below. Go and watch it now. It might completely change the way in which you think and help your child to communicate.